Okay. Okay, welcome friends. Today, let's continue our lecture. Leviticus chapter 21 to 27. Leviticus chapter 21 to 27. Let's brush up our memory. This is the outline of the entire Leviticus. Loss of offerings, loss of priests, loss of purity, Day of Atonement, loss of holiness, loss of the priests. Today we are here. Loss of the priests. Of course, even we see chapter 8 to 10, also the loss of the priests. And then 23rd to 25, appointed times and penalties and those in chapter 26, 27. Let's focus on 21 to 22 here. Chapter 21, verse 1 to 3. Then the Lord said to Moses, speak to the priests, the sons of Aaron, and say to them, no one shall defile himself for a dead person among his people, except for his relatives who are nearest to him, his mother and his father and his son and his daughter and his brother. Also for his virgin sister, who is near to him because she has had no husband. For her, he may defile himself. They shall not make any baldness on their heads, nor shave off the edges of their beards, nor make any cuts in their flesh. They shall be holy to their God and not profane the name of their God. For they present the offerings by fire to the Lord, the food of their God, so they shall be holy. It is a kind of, exegetical verse by verse and chapter by chapter type of studies, not so much abstract theology. It's type of devotional type of thing. So it's a kind of another discipline also to study the Bible as we listen the lecture. Simultaneously, it happens. We study the Bible, we read the Bible, and also we listen. Some theological aspects also here and there we come across through. Loss of the priest, chapter 1 and chapter 22. Here, qualifications of the priests have been mentioned. And in chapter 2, sacrificial duties of the priests. And also contact with the dead, physical blemishes, virgin wives, holy actions have been mentioned in chapter 1, whereas in chapter 2, remaining clean, eating of the sacrifice, observing sacrificial regulations we observe. This is a kind of overall picture of these two chapters, chapter 1 and chapter 2. Leviticus 22, 31 to 33 says, so you shall keep my commandments and do them. Not only keeping, but doing aspect is very essential, because I am the Lord. You shall not profane my holy name, but I will be sanctified among the sons of Israel. I am the God, Lord, who sanctifies you, who brought you out from the land of Egypt to be your God. I am the Lord. So as we are here, last of the praise, the Lord spoke again to Moses saying, speak to the sons of Israel. I already read this. So for 6 days, work may be done. But on the 7th day, there is a Sabbath of complete rest, a holy convocation. You shall not do any work. It is a Sabbath to the Lord in all your dwellings. Sabbath in all your dwellings. Complete rest. Complete rest that allows us to have a recreation. Spring feast and the fall feast can be seen here What are the spring feasts? Passover, unleavened bread, first fruits, and Pentecost. These were the festivals in the spring. And whereas in the fall, trumpets, atonement, and booths. So here, the spring feasts are for the deliverance from Egypt, remembering, how the people of God delivered from the Egypt, removal of impurities of old life, and the promise of new life to come. And then finally, Holy Spirit giving of the covenant. That's what we see in the day of Pentecost. In the first fruits, promise of new life to come. And whereas in the false phase, new civil year, trumpets, atonement for the nation. And here, both God dwelling with his people. So these are a kind of exercise that we need to understand the days, the months, the seasons, and the festivals. Particularly here, Nisan, in the month of Nisan, Abib. Nisan, Abib, particularly in English calendar, we see March and April. Rain, Passover. Here, dry season. Here, Silvan, Tammuz, Ab, Elul, Tishrei. So these are the April, May, June, July, August, September to October. These are dry season where we get this Pentecost, follow temple, Tippur, booths. And the rainy season here in the November to March, these are the Hebrew months, Chanukah and Purism. So here and there we come across through these names and the months in the Old Testament books, particularly even in Esther, we read some of these months, particularly Purism. Spring feast, Passover, unleavened bread, first fruits, and Pentecost. Leviticus 23, verse 5. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month at twilight, is the Lord's Passover. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month at twilight, is the Lord's Passover. Then on the 15th day of the same month, there is the feast of unleavened bread to the Lord. For 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, speak to the sons of Israel and say to them, when you enter the land which I am going to give to you and reap its harvest, then you shall bring in the chaff of the first fruits of your harvest to the priest. First fruits belongs to the Lord, to the temple. He shall wave the chaff before the Lord for you to be accepted. On the day after the Sabbath, the priest shall wave it. Now on the day when you wave the chaff, you shall offer a male lamb, 1 year old, without defect, from a burnt offering to the Lord. Its grain offering shall then be 2 tenths of an ephah of 5 flour mixed with oil, an offering by fire to the Lord for a soothing aroma, with its drink offering 1/4 of a hin of wine. You shall also count for yourselves from the day after the Sabbath, from the day when you brought in the chaff of the wave offering, there shall be 7 complete Sabbaths. You shall count 50 days to the day after the 7th Sabbath. Then you shall present a new grain offering to the Lord. So let me skip all these Bible verses. It's almost like reading. So why is this command repeated here again? When you reap the harvest of your land, moreover, you shall not reap to the very corners of your field. nor gather the gleaning of your harvest. You are to leave them for the needy and the alien. I am the Lord your God. The other day, we have already discussed this. Why we see it again? Because the God of the Bible is the God who cares for the poor and the needy. God is a God of all, irrespective of the economic standard. Particularly some liberation theologians, they argue saying that God has a preferential option for the poor. Means God has a special preferential option for the poor. That's the reason most of the liberation theologians, because liberation theology has evolved from Latin America, where there was so much oppression, injustice, and a lot of poverty. So these theologians, mostly they talk about justice and the liberation of the oppressed. In Indian context, we have this Dalit theology. One of the famous Indian Dalit theologian named Arvind Nirmal. He says, Daliton ko swatantra pradhan karo. What is the theology? Dalits need freedom. Freedom from every clutches of the evil. Freedom from social bondages. Particularly, we evangelicals talk about sin as an abstract sin that related to the personal life. Adultery, thief, stealing, or maybe speaking evil, and all sinful behavioral aspects that are related to personal life. It is sinful, but sin is much more than what we think. Social injustice is also a terrific sin. God considered to say it a terrific sin, because God is a God of justice. That's why, hope you remember when I said the concept of holiness, the biblical concept of holiness is much more bigger than what we think of holiness. Holiness is beyond our personal petty sins. In the Hebrew context, the Hebrew word for the holiness, kadosh, means justice. What is holiness? Justice is holiness. You are to leave them for the needy and the alien. I am the Lord your God. God is always concerned for the poor and the needy. Even you see the life of Jesus, he was always concerned for the needy, the beggars, the leftover, the sick, and the fallen, and the prostitutes. So God is always concerned for the poor and the needy. Engaging in the mission of God is very much essential, particularly in the aspect of taking care of the needs of the one another. Fall feast, particularly, we see Feast of Trumpets, Day of Atonement, and Feast of Booths. So, blowing of trumpets. The Lord spoke to Moses saying, and on exactly the 10th day of the 7th month is the Day of Atonement. It shall be a holy convocation for you, and you shall humble your souls and present an offering by fire to the Lord. To the Lord. The Feast of Booths was 7 days to the Lord. 7 days to the Lord. Today, we don't need to celebrate all the feasts, but we need to celebrate the kingdom of God. Let's move to chapter 24. In 24, we see verses 1 to 4, the lamb, and then the table, the blasphemy. So regulations relating to the times at which the lamb and the table of the presence are to be in service. In service. We see verses 1 to 9 talk about regulations relating to the times in which the lamb and the table of the presence are to be in service. Whereas in verses 10 to 23, we see a man curses God in an altercation and is put to death. Other laws regarding altercations. So these are mostly this lot. The sabbatical year and the year of Jubilee can be seen in chapter 25. The Lord then spoke to Moses at Mount Sinai, saying, "Speak to the sons of Israel and say to them, when you come into the land which I shall give you, then the Lord shall have a Sabbath to the Lord. Then the land shall have a Sabbath to the Lord." It is not only the human beings having Sabbath, but even the land. The entire creation needs Sabbath, rest. That's the reason land also needs rest. Then it will produce good fruits. But today, how can we give rest to the lands? We have giving all the hybrid seeds, and there is no rest for the land. Summer crop, winter crop, rainy season crop, every time, even if there is nothing, even raising crop, even on the terrace. Only even there is a crops without soil also now fruits are coming. So, but God has really given all the laws. If human beings follow the laws of the Lord, the entire creation enjoys this. There will be an amazing recreation, joy. 6 years you shall sow your field, and 6 years you shall prune your vineyards and gather in its crop. But during the 7th year, the land shall have a Sabbath rest, a Sabbath to the Lord. You shall not sow your field nor prune your vineyard. The sabbatical year. Sabbatical year. Your harvest after growth you shall not reap, and your grapes of untrimmed wines you shall not gather. The land shall have a sabbatical year. Land shall have a sabbatical year. You are also to count of 7 Sabbaths of years for yourself. 7 times 7 years, so that you have the time of the 7 Sabbaths of years, namely 49 years. You shall thus consecrate the 50th year and proclaim a release through the land to all its inhabitants. It shall be a jubilee for you, and each of you shall return to his own property, and each of you shall return to his family. Same as jubilee in Genesis 4:21. But who cares all these laws today? But if human beings follow the laws of God, even human beings need rest and recreation. Sabbatical year, taking Sabbath at least once in a while, it recreates, renovates, so we will become more productive. Now and then we should take time and relax and enjoy. The other day, our friend says, Smiles, he took time, 1 or 2, I think 1 week, he just flew off and then be there. He was there at Bhimtal, Saptal Ashram, and I hope he enjoyed thoroughly. We need that kind of recreating ourselves, being away from the world with the mobile and with the everything. Not only even we need our land also to have such recreation. And now, so I skip all this. So if you walk in my statutes and keep my commandments, God always gave a kind of conditional promises. Most of the promises are conditional promises. Here there is a condition, if. What is the condition? If you walk in my statutes and keep my commandments, all the law, whatever God has given, if we keep them into consideration, God, we enjoy the blessing of God in our lives, in our generations. That's the reason the Christian community today, they should read the book of Leviticus time and again. Most of the laws are now, it looks like, they look like impossible, very difficult. Most of the laws, doesn't make any sense. Don't make any sense. But If we can see how best we can try to implement those laws and follow those laws in today's context, we see a transformation in the homes in the society. I will give you rain. And see what God said. The land will yield its produce. The trees of the field will bear fruit. You will eat your own food to the full. Full. Sometimes people think if I stop 1 year, how we will eat? If we stop 1 year without any crop, then your house will be filled with the food. I will grant you peace. Above all, God, those who follow the law of the Lord enjoy the peace of God. You will chase your enemies. But today it's happening Volta. Enemies are chasing us. I will make you fruitful and multiply you. Why we need to study the book of Leviticus and help our little kids and grandchildren to follow those laws and regulations? Because we make them fruitful and multiply. I will dwell with you. Not only that, we feel the presence of God in the midst of us. But there is another condition God also said here. If you do not obey me and carry out all these commandments, there is another here. I will appoint over you a sudden terror, consumption, and fever. You shall sow your seed uneasily. You shall be struck down before your enemies. Those who hate you shall rule over you. You shall flee when no one is pursuing. You shall flee when no one is pursuing. Today, the human beings, particularly in this postmodern society in 21st century, in the corona context, people are running and running. They have been fleeing from place to place when there was no one is pursuing. There is so much psychological problems in these days because they don't care the laws of God when everything is good. Yesterday, I was reading the news. One doctor, he became so wild, took the knife and he brutally killed his wife and the children and ran away because he was haunted by this corona context. He has written in the diary saying that corona is killing everybody. We don't know what is the problem, but he became a psyche. He killed everybody in the home and ran away and with the depression. We have seen in the first wave and even in the second wave, people jumping from the fifth floor or fourth floor, committing suicides because they felt corona is chasing them when it was not. So we feel that the troubles are chasing us. We will live in an imaginary world when we don't follow the law of the Lord. When we follow the law of God, we will be at peace. We relax. Now, yesterday, I think by this time, 7:30 or 7:45, my mother suddenly, all of a sudden, she lost the voice and then she was completely had gone. Something happened. We don't know exactly. I was down. So by the time I came, she was not able to talk and the heartbeat was different. And she says, I'm not getting air. And we don't know what to do. Immediately we pick up our family doctor, called him. He said, sir, she had a stroke. Rush to the doctor, immediately to the hospital and admit. And we all family started praying and we prayed and we were about to book the ambulance. But my mother said, with a little voice without comments, with the signs she was telling, don't worry, if I am here, she was telling all the signs, otherwise I will go to God, I will be there. Yeah, don't worry, don't be tensed. I could see some kind of peace ruling her heart. And she pressed, she doesn't want to come to hospital. Then we gave a little water, and slowly we all took our hands and literally saying, I thought she's going to die. And I brought my children, made her to kneel down near to her. I asked her to keep her hand and pray. She blessed 3 children, and we prayed. And we thought, today is the last day, last night of her existence here. But slowly God started working. She was so peaceful, even in that death side of situation. And I can 100% say she follows the laws of God. And she came to Christ through me and I discipled her in a way that she can trust God. My father left a few months ago, and now she knows that she will be with God with peace of mind. It's amazing. By morning, she was slowly recovering, apple juice, this and that. She now sitting and moving here and there, but not able to talk. But everything is normal. When we follow God, we enjoy the peace of God. You shall flee when no one is pursuing, when we don't follow the laws of God. Yesterday I have seen, even the death is pursuing her. She doesn't feel that. So much peaceful presence of God. She was able to enjoy the presence of God, even when the death was pursuing her. I believe death got frightened, and she was able to be relaxed. And what I want to say, there is a secret of success in the Bible documented here in this Leviticus. But today, irrespective of the religion, including Christians, we are brainwashed by this postmodern philosophy which believes in subjectivism. What is right to you, and what is right to me. Truth is subjective. But here in the book of Leviticus, we see the objective laws. Objective laws, very clear, either this or that. There is nothing middle position. But today, everybody wants a middle position. Neither they are there nor here. And this is the time that we need to teach in our church to look at the objective values of God, the laws of God that are documented here in the Leviticus, book of Leviticus. If after these things you do not obey me, I will push you 7 times more, punish you 7 times more. I will break down your pride of power. Your strength will be spent useless. Your land will not produce its produce. The trees of the land will not yield their fruit. If then you act with hostility toward me and are not willing, I will increase the plague 7 times. Look at here, God progressively giving a chance for the human beings to obey the laws of God that are documented here in this book of Leviticus. If you reject some kind of pressure, if you are hostile toward me and are not willing, I will increase the plague 7 times. Today, there is so much rebellion in this creation. There is so much rebellion nature in the hearts of people. That's the reason. More diseases, more plagues, 7 times higher than. I will let loose among you the beasts of the field. They shall bear you of your children and destroy your cattle. That's happening here. In this, even in this Corona context, a lot of cheetahs and a lot of animals, they started coming into the human inhabitation and destroying so much. Even last night only I saw some news when cheetah entered into the public place and started wounding so many people. They shall bear you of your children and destroy your cattle. If by these things you are not turned to me, even after these things, even if they don't turn to God, God says, I will strike you 7 times. See the progressive, God's punishment coming upon the humans. I will strike you 7 times. I will bring upon you a sword. I will strike you with a pestilence. Your bread shall be rationed. If in spite of this, you do not obey me, even in spite of that, if they don't obey, I will punish you 7 times more. You shall eat the flesh of your sons and daughters. More dangerous things. You shall eat the flesh of your sons and daughters. It happened in the history, in certain periods, when there was such a terrific famine. There were times people had to eat the flesh of their sons and daughters. Today, we had my son, tomorrow we will have your son. Day after tomorrow, we will have their son. I will cut down your high places. I will lay waste your cities. I will make the land desolate. I will scatter you among the nations, and you will perish among the nations. Very serious consequences for those who don't obey the law of the Lord. If they confess their, but here is an option again. But if they confess their iniquity, or if their uncircumcised heart becomes humble, there is always a second chance. There is always a third chance. There is always a chance for people to come to God and repent. When we read this book, we always feel returning to God and confess our sins, because it is a mirror. When we look at all these laws and regulations, the mirror shows us where we are falling, and we confess and trust to God. What happened? We see revival. Revival comes when we confess the sins. I will remember my covenant. I will remember the land. I will not reject them to destroy them. I will remember for them the covenant with their ancestors. Obeying the laws of God brings healing, brings a blessing. Yesterday with my mother, as we sit around, we were discussing, even if she falls on the bed, even if we need to take care of her on the bed, or whatever the circumstances, cleaning on the bed, we decided it is a great blessing to us, because Bible clearly says, honor your father and your mother, so that you will be prospered in the land that you are entering into. You will be prospered in the land entering into. There is an enormous blessing in taking care of the elders. But who will teach? Particularly Christian theology is not really coming out from the Christological perspective, from the cultural perspective. Even now today, the Christian community has so much trainings before the wedding. There is a premarital counseling, marital counseling, brainwashing people, saying that leave, cleave, and cling. There's all sorts of misinterpretation of the word, saying that you should leave your parents, throw them out, because you need to understand each other. This is God's plan, this and that. And then there is no place for the elderly people in the home. So children don't see. As a result, when they become aged, they can't take care of the elders. So Bible clearly says these laws in the book of Leviticus encourages us to follow the law of God. The law of God. It is difficult to take care of the elderly people. It is difficult to give a space for the elderly people. People say, hey, in those days, your grandparents, and that was a different society, but today we are different. There is nothing like Baba. Everything is same. The laws of God are applicable to all cultures, all times, all nations, in all situations. Whether it's a modern or postmodern, whether it's an ancient or contemporary, the laws of God that are mentioned in the Bible are applicable to any culture, any time, any situation. People say, hey, I'm in software, I'm busy, I can't take care of them. No, this is a human sinful behavior that speaks out from the bottom of the heart. But it's a blessing to keep them. No, when we follow those laws of God, God says, I will remember my covenant. I will remember the land. I will not reject them to destroy them. I will remember for them the covenant with their ancestors. Why there is so much divorce today? Because there are no elders in the family who watch, observe, and guide and give them the counsel. Because we throw them out. And most of the times now, sophisticated the old age homes have come. You give them 1 lakh rupee per month, they will be treated as prince and king and queen. And they say, hey, I'm taking care of my parents so well, giving them the best apartment, best plan. You know, human beings doesn't require apartment, this kind of human beings require relationship, sitting and talking for some time. Human beings need physical touch. Keep your hand and say, hey, I'm there with you. God is very strategically mentioned all the laws. We need to help our young fellows. Again, the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, speak to the sons of Israel and say to them, when a man makes a difficult oath, we shall be valued according to your valuation of persons belonging to the Lord. So here, male 20 to 60 years old, 50 shekels, female 20 to 60 years old, 30 shekels as per the, you see these requirements there for the offering. When you make an oath to God, do not be late in paying it, for he takes no delight in fools. Pay what you owe. It is better that you should not owe than that you should owe and pay and not. Ecclesiastes 5, 4-5. When you make a commitment, fulfill it immediately without dragging. When you say, Lord, I'll do this, do that. So now the man consecrates his house as holy to the Lord, then the priest shall value it as either good or bad. As the priest values it, so it shall stand. Yet, the one who consecrates it should wish to redeem his house. Then he shall add 1/5 of your valuation price to it, so that it may be his. Let me skip all this. So when, let me read Judges 11:35. When he saw her, let me read the entire context. Judges 30 onwards. Jephthah made an oath to the Lord and said, if you will indeed give the sons of Ammon into my hand, then it shall be that whatever comes out of the doors of my house to meet me, when I return in peace from the sons of Ammon, it shall be the Lord's. He made a commitment to God. And I will offer it up as a burnt offering. When Jephthah came to his house at Mizpah, behold, his daughter was coming out to meet him with tambourines and with dancing. Now she was his one and only child. Besides her, he had no son or daughter. When he saw her, he tore her clothes and said, alas, my daughter, you have brought me very low, and you are among those who trouble me. For I have given my word to the Lord, and I cannot take it back. I cannot take it back. So I kept a kind of situational ethics here. The laws, he made an oath, but you cannot take it back. But Bible never, encourages a human sacrifice as such. So we need to understand God in a bigger picture. So here I stop today's lecture. and we meet on next Thursday and Friday.
మీ మదర్ ఎలా ఉన్నారు ఇప్పుడు డాక్టర్ గారు?
By God's grace, she is okay. Actually, I asked doctor to come and check her. Maybe today we will see. Actually, I wanted to take her to hospital and admit somewhere, but she doesn't want to come. She says, no, I don't want to come. So even my brother also said, yeah, we will go. But even once she gets into the ICU, they will not allow us also to go. It's all a kind of difficult.